So here in part two, we're going to continue with our discussion of how economies grow, um, and we were talking about the fact that there are four factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurial ability, and the question becomes, how do you improve these factors? Um, so this is my perspective on this as someone who politically is, a social democrat or a progressive in the U.S. First would be to treat workers as humans. If you want to improve output, you give people good pay and benefits, and we see that around the world that countries with high productivity are the ones that treat workers with proper respect. So here's some data from the OECD. I mentioned them as a great source of comparative data across the sort of middle income to higher income countries. OECD again stands for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and this is an index showing labor productivity. So the value of output per hour in the economy. And you can see that countries with sort of stronger social democratic ethos in their society, like Germany and Denmark, actually have a higher output, worker output per hour, even though their countries have higher tax rates than our own, and greater restrictions on the capability of firms to deal with its workers. There are higher worker protections there. Germany offers up to 2 years of unemployment compensation, where the United States, absent a crisis like this, it's 26 weeks typically, though it will be expanded during this particular crisis. So, these countries have figured out how to generate a higher level of output per hour of input based on their organization of their economic realm in such a way that it respects the average worker more, I would say, than does the U.S. So, in addition to pay and benefits, you have the capability in countries like Germany and Denmark for workers to have input into the operation of the firm. It's something in English that was referred to as co-determination, where workers sit on the board of directors of large companies. They also have, in some places, factory level committees that they participate in to make suggestions for how the firm can operate better. From those numbers we looked at, it looks like it pays significant dividends. The other thing many other countries do, which makes a difference, is the social safety net is a national priority. And instead of trying to tie the social safety net to employment, it's a societal responsibility, and it relieves a burden on employers and frees entrepreneurship. So, a country like Denmark actually has a higher penetration of small businesses into their workforce than we do in the United States, because some of these concerns that you have. I'm a former entrepreneur myself. Spent way too much time worrying about health insurance for employees, which you have to provide, but is expensive, and it's a difficult area where I would have rather spent the time worrying about how I was actually providing a better product for my customers, making more money, etc. So health insurance is one area where our structure is different. Childcare is another, as well as the cost of public higher education. These things are all privatized in the U.S., and they're much more public functions in other countries, and that allows for higher level of entrepreneurship and higher levels of output because it frees workers to concentrate on their jobs or their ideas rather than being tied to an employer for a specific set of benefits. I spent this time talking about this issue because it comes to the fore during crises like this, just as it did with the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, that folks are losing their jobs right now. Unemployment is soaring. Today, we found out that over the last week, another 4.4 million people have filed for unemployment claims. That brings the total to something like 26 million, which will be an increase in unemployment of over 15%, probably closer to 18% now. The unemployment number that we see at the beginning of may actually be scraping closer to 20%, which is unprecedented levels of unemployment since the Great Depression. For the U.S. anyway, and the loss of jobs here means that people are losing their health insurance. They're losing access to other kinds of employment benefits, and you've got situations where in states like our own here in Massachusetts, it was just announced this week that schools will be closed for the rest of the school year, which means that if parents are called back to work, they're going to have very difficult childcare issues to deal with. There are some legislation that was passed on an emergency basis that will help ease that a bit for up to 2 weeks. But these circumstances point to all kinds of holes that we have, which we need to address in order to have a more humane and productive society. But fundamentally, I think we all recognize, or we should anyway, that we have a more important role to play in society than being a cog in an economic wheel here. We're more than our contribution to the economy or GDP. But this discussion gives me sort of an interesting framework to talk about as I do try to communicate this information to students and classes without some of the editorial comments that I feel free to offer here on YouTube. But because I concentrate on the economy doesn't mean that I necessarily think that it is what gives meaning to our lives. It's an interesting subject, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk about it, and I hope you enjoy the challenge of these particular ideas. So that's all I had for the second part for tonight. It's a little bit shorter than normal, but I have another Zoom call to be on in a few minutes. So I'll leave you there, and we'll be back at it either Friday night or Saturday morning, depending on schedule. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe out there. Maybe I should wear my mask to show you my commitment, but be well, and I'll talk to you soon.